what's your risk management method and money management? I mean, do you have, just talk a bit about that.
I don't have any risk management method, as you put it. I mean, I am aware of risk, but I don't look at it scientifically. I mean, I'm not a mathematician. I have a sense of numbers, but that doesn't make one a mathematician. So I have no formulaic mathematical approach at all.
What about money management?
I don't care about that either.
Money management here is reference to sort of when you go into a position, have you got an idea of where you're going to be coming out or where your profit is, or are you moving in because you see an opportunity, or move out when you see an opportunity again?
Yes, well, as I've stressed earlier, one must look at each position on its own merits, not merely day by day, but hour by hour. And if one's not prepared to revise one's view, one is a fool. I think I would say that to myself. If ever I thought I was taking a view which was dogmatic, then I would say you have definitely entered dangerous territory. Well, I hope I don't do that. I made lots of mistakes, but I don't believe in being inherently foolish.
What about averaging down into a losing trade?
Well, as you know, it is said by some that more Jews have been killed by averaging down than were ever roasted at Auschwitz. But I don't think that's a generally expressed view, and some people say it's rather tasteless. But I think I take the view that averaging down is a cardinal error, and one really mustn't do it. It kills people, and one really must not do it. So, I don't think I've ever done it, actually, since you raised the point. It's a fatuous thing to do. The market is the market, and if it goes down against you, the proper response is to consider whether one's made an error in relation to matters. But to compound the error is not a very bright thing to do. But people do.
Stop loss settings.
Well, I've never used them. I don't see the point. I know that various spread firms do offer stop loss cover, and indeed some firms insist upon them, but I don't see how they're going to work in practice for highly volatile smaller companies that I'm interested in. The cost of the stop loss cover is very high in relation to the risk of invoking it, and I just have nothing to do with them. I know a lot of people think they're terribly important, but as I mentioned, I personally don't.
What about having a sort of a personal rule on a wrong trade, saying I've had enough, I'm getting out? Have you got one?
Well, I think there is a case for saying no to further losses. But in the main, one must ask oneself, as one invokes this limit, whether others are going to do it at the same time, and obviously they usually are. On spread betting, when positions move very quickly against you for a large percentage, the pain threshold will be shared by oneself and others. And my view is the others can get on with it. It doesn't particularly interest me.
Have you got any, you've given a couple of good examples of where you've had very good wins. Have you got any of the sort of losing trades where you've also learnt a lot that you want to share?
Well, the worst loss I've ever had was on Regis about 12 years ago, something like that, from memory. I had made good money on the collapse of Regis in 1999-2000. It struck me as ridiculously overvalued. And I suppose I became addicted to the idea that being short Regis was generally a good idea. And then a rather astute stock market trader, a chap called Robert Bonnier, decided to take the reverse view to mine on Regis. And he put a lot of money into it against me. And I said, well, clever Mr. Bonnier, I'll take my loss now, which was about £3 million. And I said, but it doesn't matter, Mr. Bonnier, you will get into trouble on it in due course. Well, he didn't get into trouble on it in due course. He made a great deal of money. So there you are. You can be wrong. I think Regis is now comfortably over £2. I think, I don't know what it is, about £2.30. I haven't looked for a long while. But, you know, there it is. Well, I lost a lot of money a year or two back on something called CPP, the credit card protection fraud operated from York. I never realized they could ever pump the share price up as high as they did. And through market practice, I had to close that position at a loss to me of £550,000. But looking back, had I kept the position in CPP open, had I been allowed to in the market, then I would have made a profit. But I mean, that happens in markets. And the answer to that is one shouldn't get oneself into that position in the first place.
Is there one wrong sell where that you thought, now that caught me unawares and I learned something specific from it that you hadn't expected?
Well, you may remember I referred to CPP a year or two back. There I misjudged the attitude of the controlling shareholder and Schroders as an institutional investor, and I presumed that because of the steps they had taken, there were other conclusions to draw. I was wrong, and I suppose it's a reminder that in this life you do have to check. Yes, you certainly have to check things, that's for sure.
Okay, what about a single most important lesson then from past trading decisions? What is the one thing that you would say to anybody, you know?
Oh yes, you're only as good as your last trade. I think that is true, yes.
Personal question, what type of returns are you targeting?
Well, I prefer a profit, but people who say they're going for 10% on their capital in a year or 30% on their capital in a year make the assumption that events will prove to work in their favor if they do things consistently. Well, I've never seen any evidence that anybody can do anything of the sort. A chap I have encountered, Chris Binodi, is completely indifferent to others' returns. His argument being is that one should really concentrate upon the market as a whole, sectors of the market, which are not being attended to by others. And as a result, he gets remarkably different results in relation to the market as a whole. And I am told, I haven't studied it, it does a great deal better. And I'm not surprised. He's a very intelligent bloke. And he, and I may say members of his team, are very intelligent as well. And I'm not at all surprised that they do better. But as regards saying how much better they will do than others, I couldn't possibly tell you. I doubt if Chris Benody himself knows either.
How much is enough for you?
Oh, I don't think there's any. I don't have any limits. I don't feel that one should moderate one's behaviour. Indeed, I think if one's got something right, one should confirm one's behaviour. Moderation is not really the test here.
And what about if you're in a winning position? How long are you going to stay there, do you think?
For as long as one thinks the share price will continue to improve.
Will you go before taking profits? And what are the main signals for you to exit?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, one must look to see what other people think about a stock. And one must resist the temptation to take a profit just because there is a profit. One must value these shares day by day according to how the market sees them. And that's a skill born of time. Self-control is important, but above all, it's the application of patience. There is no formulaic approach at all. I think formulaic approaches to investment are the mark of the inferior mind, and I certainly don't go along with that. Doesn't mean to say I haven't made inferior decisions, because I certainly have, but I don't believe in consciously seeking to be inferior.